talking about Ten Hag then, I know we touched on it a little bit this morning. He was asked about the title. He said, I hate them all, but he did say this. It'd be good for Arteta. He's done really well there, and Arsenal have been patient with him, which is nice as well. And that was when he was asked about the league table, who's going to win the league title. I think that really, that is so positive for Erik Ten Hag, in the sense that apparently Kobbie Mainoo's been called up into the England squad. Breaking news. England have called up Kobbie Mainoo, so we'll talk about that in a moment. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know whether has somebody dropped out then. We'll come to that in a moment. But yeah, I think this is such a massive point in relation to Erik Ten Hag, because we've been waiting for this sort of thing for a long time. And I think the way it's come out is almost odd. This is not an exclusive interview with the BBC or anything like that. This was with a cycling podcast where they've asked him a few questions. And I think that to say that we've been asking for something to come out about the manager from Ineos for a long time, for it to drop in a podcast like this is quite interesting. But I think the rawness of this is really interesting, because it's not like he's prepared to be speaking about the manager. But I think he's dropped a massive hint that by saying, well, look, you know, Arsenal have done a great job with Arteta and they've been really patient with him, which is nice as well. I was listening to him when he said it, and it was almost a throwaway comment, but you could tell he really meant it, because he could have just stopped at, you know, Arteta's done a job there. But then he sort of went, and, you know, Arsenal have been really patient with him, which is nice as well. And it was an admiration statement. He was sort of almost like throwing it in there as, you know what, Arteta's done well, and Arsenal have been really patient with him, which is really nice, which is obviously something that is at the core values of Sir Jim Ratcliffe. Like, he obviously admires that from Arsenal, giving that patience. So it would be odd if he was then not going to be patient with Erik Ten Hag. So look, I will still say there's a lot of games to go this season, and there's a lot of potential losses that could make it very difficult for Erik Ten Hag to stay. But I think if Erik Ten Hag navigates the next 2 months without any major dramas, and I mean like 2 or 3 losses in a row, then I think he will get that patience in the summer, which I think is fundamentally massive for Manchester United. And I said it on Twitter this morning. I think it's a massive hint that Erik Ten Hag will stay at Manchester United, because there are 3 things that sort of, you know, are massively important with regards to this. First of all, we need a massive clear out in the summer. Second of all, we don't have loads of money to spend. And third of all, it will cost money to sack Erik Ten Hag. Well, the money to pay Ten Hag off and replace him, the money to give a brand new manager, and the clear out that won't happen as severely with a new manager. We need a clear out to raise money to buy players. If you've got a new manager coming in, I mean, can you imagine Gareth Southgate walking into Manchester United and Sir Jim saying, we need you to sell players to generate money? He wouldn't have a bloody clue what to do. So I think that's massively important as well. What else did he say? Well, look, I want to talk about the stadium next as well. Really interesting, this sort of stuff. The plans that are in place already, I suppose, when it comes to Manchester United. He was also asked who is the greatest player to ever play for Manchester United. Who do you think he said was the greatest player to ever play for Manchester United? Because his age profile is really interesting. Like, Sir Jim Ratcliffe's a lot older than most of us, and he's 70. He's 70, isn't he? So 70 when you're 20, 50. So he'd have been about 10 in the mid-60s. He'd have been about 12 when we won in 68. So he would have, 12-year-olds, you know things, don't you? He would know about Sir Bobby. He'd have seen Sir Bobby. He'd have seen George Best. He'd have seen Dennis Law. He'd have seen Brian Robson. So guess who he said that the best player to play for Manchester United is? Cristiano Ronaldo. Cristiano Ronaldo is the guy. Look, I have read the chat about Kobbie Mainoo, but I'm doing a video about Sir Jim Ratcliffe and the future of our football club. Kobbie Mainoo getting called up for England, great news, really doesn't move the needle on what I want to talk about. So congratulations to Kobbie Mainoo. He's going to go and train with England. You've had your piece. I've told you about it. I'm not doing a separate video about it. I'm talking about Man United and the structural future of our football club. Bloody hell. I mean, how many times do you have to say it? So Jim Radcliffe asked who the greatest player to play for Man United is. Cristiano Ronaldo, which I was a bit surprised about. He's the greatest player to play for Man United in my lifetime, I think, on pure talent. But I'd be interested to know what Ricky's answer is to that, because he might say something different. But I was surprised by that because I can't say George Best. I can't say Sir Bobby Charlton because I didn't see them play. But that was Sir Jim's answer on that. And again, just another comment on this. He says, it's not where our focus is buying Jude Bellingham. The solution isn't spending a lot of money on a couple of great players. They've done that for over 10 years. So that's not what Man United are doing about. He spoke also about Barada. He said, we talk on a daily basis. There's a group of us involved, but the two most focused on it is Dave and myself. We've now got Barada, of course, who's on gardening leave at the moment, but he's becoming part of a trio when he settles in. So that conversation isn't actually going on at the moment because he's on gardening leave, of course, and you've got to be very aware of that. He said that Sir David Brailsford wouldn't ever profess to say we need to buy that player because I think he's a very good player. Dave would never do that. It's not his skill set, but we need that skill set at the football club. What I was really interested in is sort of the business side of Sir Jim Radcliffe. So bear with me on this one because I think this is quite interesting what he had to say here. So basically he was talking about Old Trafford, and remember there's been a little bit of a lack of clarity around this and what's actually going on. So this is what he had to say. I think Man United are the biggest sports brand in the world, so it needs to have a stadium that is befitting the club and the brand. It might have been the case 20 years ago that Old Trafford had that stadium, but if you look at where Real Madrid are doing at the Bernabeu and the Barcelona with the Nou Camp, and you look at the Premier League, we don't have anything that compares to that. We can refurbish Old Trafford and do a really nice job of that, and it would cost about £1 billion, and the club could shoulder that burden. But you have got the opportunity, if you choose to build a completely new ground, and it would be state-of-the-art, 90,000 to 100,000, that provides a platform for something, some of the big competition being in the north. He's talking about the Wembley of the north. So that's real clarity for you there. Old Trafford, we can stay at Old Trafford, we can refurbish it really nicely, and we can spend £1 billion on it, and we make it look really nice, and we stay at Old Trafford. Or we can knock it down, build a new stadium, and have a Wembley of the North. I personally would say let's spend £1 billion on our ground. It's our ground. It's our church. It means a lot to a lot of people. I still want us to refurbish Old Trafford, but obviously, I think that they're still looking at that. Goldbridge, that's the end of the clip. I'm sure you enjoyed it. In fact, I bet that's the best clip you've ever watched. So there's no reason not to subscribe to the channel, click the bell icon so you never miss a clip again. In fact, smash a like on the video because we all know only legends like videos and you are all legends. So please smash a like on the video and we will see you again on the next one. Thank you very much for watching as always.